Hi, welcome to this video. As you can see, I'm talking to camera. I'm also going to be doing a tier ranking of commercial space stations. So I'm just going to talk off the cuff. It's not scripted. It's just my opinion of the commercial viability of some space station operators and some related companies that are providing services to commercial space stations. I have 6 of them. You can see them here. It's just a standard tier list, and I'm going to rank what I think is commercial viability. I've got a number of categories going from the bottom, pipe dream, to long shot, coin toss, good chance, and then cash cow. So I'm just going to give my opinion, and very knowledgeable people may have completely different opinions. So let's see how it goes anyway. So the first company is Vast Space, which I've done a video on Vast Space, and I've also done various space news segments updating people with the news about Vast Space. So I think this has a I don't know, it's coin toss or good chance. I'll put it there for the moment because it's getting funding. It's building hardware. In fact, it's built Haven 1. This image here is Haven 1. It's now undergoing testing, and it should have been launching this year, but I think it's been put back to 2026. But it's going to be the very first commercial space station module launched. So, I mean, if it goes well, it could be the #1 commercial space station. There are also they also have a mission to this Haven 1 module. I think it's 4 crew for 30 days or something like that. And they're also doing private astronaut missions to ISS, similar to Axiom Space. So I think they have a good chance, somewhere between good chance and a coin toss, whether they can make it to commercial viability. We'll just have to see. So they have a chance for commercial private astronaut missions to their Haven 1, and then later on in 2028, Haven 2, which will be bigger, and you'll be able to do more science. They already have some transport contracts signed with. I know they've signed with the exploration company in Europe for the next vehicle. So they're working on the partnerships. They've got a partnership with SpaceX to launch the module and crew to the module. So I think they're in with a chance. Okay, Starlab. I don't know. It's either long shot or coin toss, I think. I'm gonna put it here. The issue with Starlab is it's a consortium. It's, I think, 4 companies now. You've got Canada's involved. You've got MDA. You've got Japan involved. Mitsubishi. You've got Europe involved with Airbus. So there's like 4 companies involved. So potentially it has the backing and it has the technology. In terms of how many people would want to go to the station, I don't know. The amount of information on Starlab is not as good as Vast Space. So I don't know. Maybe it should be here. So Axiom Space is obviously the one everyone knows about. So I don't know. Just put it here. It already has a contract with NASA. It's going to connect its very first module to ISS, and then it's going to undock and be free floating, and then it will gradually add modules to the free floating station. So the plans have changed, and I think the pressures come from NASA rather than Axiom. We don't know when ISS will be deorbited. It could be 2030, but Russians are only signed up to 2028. And I think Elon Musk may want it to be deorbited even sooner. So the pressure is on really for NASA to find alternatives quickly. Axiom Space is the obvious one. It's already fabricating the modules. So I think that the current plan is the first module docks with ISS and NASA transfers valuable equipment across to that module. And then it can be separated and modules could be added. But NASA's saved some very expensive and valuable equipment. So I think that's the plan at the moment. The problem with Axiom Space is financially it's got problems because it expanded very quickly. It brought on a lot of employees, even though it's a space startup. So it has cash flow problems. So, and also it's also doing the spacesuits for NASA as well. So it's kind of a very critical company for NASA because on the critical path for Artemis missions, because the only company that's doing spacesuits, Axiom spacesuits, is NASA spacesuits is Axiom. There was another company that's backed out of the contract, so it's kind of essential that Axiom stays around. So I do expect NASA to support Axiom. So that's why I'm putting it a good chance. And then there's this Sierra Space Life, Sierra Space Life Habitat. So Sierra Space was part of Orbital Reef. I've not included Orbital Reef here because I honestly don't think it's going to amount to anything. Blue Origin doesn't seem that interested in it anymore. It's got a lot on its plate. It's got the HLS landers. It's got its orbital rocket, New Glenn. It's doing suborbital. I think they've got a lot on the plate. So Orbital Reef seems to be on the back burner. I'm not even sure it's progressing anymore. And Sierra Space is doing its own life habitat. And you can see it in here, in this image here. That's an inflatable module. So they may want to do their own station or module. I mean, they keep testing it and evaluating it. So presumably they intend to launch it at some point. You have Sierra Space, the space plane, the Dream Chaser plane. So they could do end-to-end. They'd have their life module, they'd have the Dream Chaser. So I just don't know what their plans are. It's not clear to me. And financially, well, I know Eric Berger from Ars Technica seems to think they have money problems. He's not convinced Dream Chaser will fly this year or ever. So I don't know. So it's long shot, I think, at best. And then there's companies like Gravitics. So Gravitics is not doing their own space station, but they are manufacturing space station modules, which other companies can purchase. And in fact, Axiom has purchased one module for, I think, $125 million from Gravitics. So there's that. Plus also the US Department of Defense, as I mentioned in Space News recently, are interested in orbital carriers. So that would be a Gravitics module that would be unpressurized. And inside are various assets and satellites, spacecraft, small spacecraft from the US Department of Defense, from Space Force. And then at certain points, they could be released into an orbit. So the module itself would have propulsion. And then it could just open up and release who knows what, right? It's so that's the idea of an orbital carrier. And they've got $60 million from the US Department of Defense. They've got $125 million from Axiom Space. And they don't have the overhead of trying to run a commercial space station. They just build the units. So, I mean, it's one of these two. So I'll say coin toss at the moment. Yes, I'll say we don't really know how much money there is in commercial space stations. It may be the whole idea is not even viable for any company at the moment. We don't know how much NASA is going to spend on these commercial space stations. We don't know how many they're going to select. If they select too many, then each winner doesn't get much money. So the whole idea of commercial space stations is we don't even know whether it's viable. So I'm going to put it as coin toss. And then this is on a limb. So I'm going to put it down here as pipe dream. So this is Think Orbital. I did a video on this, I don't know, a month or two ago, and the idea is they build the module, and it's a spherical module in space. So it's made up of stackable elements, tiles, and with a robot arm that can weld the tiles together. So you send up a stack, so it doesn't take much volume, and then you take each tile and connect it to the next and weld it. I think it's used an electron beam welder to weld each segment in place, and eventually you've got a spherical module, various sizes, but the biggest size is 4,000 cubic meters, which is huge. I think ISS is 1,000 cubic meters, so this is a huge space, which you could then pressurize or leave it unpressurized. There's various ways you can use it. Or, as you see in this image, it's just attached to a commercial space station of some kind, and you just have these spherical modules on the side. So it's a very interesting concept. There's not much news about it. I just came across it somehow. Can't even remember how. So it's an interesting idea. They've actually performed space welds. I think they had some kind of experiment on the ISS. So they can actually weld in space. But I have no idea how much money they got, who the backers are, what partnerships they have. So yeah, I'm just putting it down there right now. So anyway, this is my first attempt at a tier list based on commercial space stations. I'm not included Orbital Reef because I don't think that Blue Origin is that interested in it at the moment. That's my personal opinion. So the companies that I really like at the moment are Vast Space and Graphitics. I think Axiom is going to be funded because it's critical for NASA. And the others are, long shot at best or pipe dream. So anyway, let me know whether you like this tier list idea. There's obviously many different tier lists I could do. Yeah, I mean, I could cover the European launchers and American launchers and just global launchers and many other categories. So anyway, if you like this video, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. If you think I included things I shouldn't include or didn't include things I should include, let me know. And yeah, please like and subscribe. And I cover the small space setups and not so much the big ones like SpaceX and Blue Origin because they're covered already. So I'm looking for the smaller companies that are perhaps under the radar. People don't really know about much. But in 3-5 years, they could be big. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.